History on Off the Podium today. For the very first time, we're welcoming back a guest for a third full-length interview. I'm so excited to welcome back to this show since returning from Paris as an Olympian, officially an Olympian now, something that will never be able to be taken away from him, from the great sport of wrestling. It's a pleasure to welcome back Jayden Lawrence. Jayden, first of all, welcome back to the show and congratulations for creating Off the Podium history today.
Thanks for having us. It's a great honour to be the third time. It's really good to be now Olympian. And thanks for having us.
It's exciting. I'm sure do you just always write your name now with OLY after it? Like I guess you just would never get sick of that yet, would you?
No, it's a good thing to have next to your name now, which is cool.
Yeah,
I've always wanted it. Yeah.
Open some doors. You get to meet some royalty, which we'll talk about. So, can't complain about that. But, I mean, in all seriousness, sort of, we're obviously recording this a few months removed from Paris. How has life changed for you? I mean, jokes aside, you're meeting royalty now. I mean, this is stuff that you probably couldn't imagine that you would have been doing a little bit a while ago. I mean, has it changed significantly since you've gotten back from the Olympics?
Well, a little bit, I guess you could say. Mental side of things too, because you finally made the Olympics and everything, because it was so long trying to make the Olympics. So my head's a bit clearer, to be honest. That was the biggest thing. It's like, am I ever going to get there? But the head space is a lot better, to be honest, now that I've made it. And hopefully next time I try to go for it, it will have a better result.
Of course, obviously.
The time when I got back, it was like because I was gone for so long, it was a good thing to stay with the family for a bit and have a bit of relaxing time. And so since I got back, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, all the people tuning into this maybe for the very first time haven't listened to our previous two chats with Jayden. Check them out to hear sort of all your incredible stories you've told us over the years about sort of all those heartbreaks and the journey and everything that took you to get to Paris. And when we last spoke to you, you were, I think, very close to being on that plane. You were talking about sort of the training camps and everything that you were doing in the lead up to getting to Paris. How long were you actually away in total for, like away from Australia and from your family, like as you were just mentioning?
I left in May.
Wow.
And then it was August was the Olympics, sorry. So it was quite a big stint. So I did a few months training camp in Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan in the mountains. So that was amazing. That was crazy.
How like, I mean, I know we talked a little bit about that sort of places that you never dream about going, but I mean, just what was life like there? What's it like for an Olympian training to go to Olympics in places that are very obscure for most people?
Well, the thing in wrestling over there is huge. That's one of their number one sports. So all the people in the community are crazy about wrestling. So it's hilarious because I go around the streets there and people start noticing because if they follow wrestling quite a lot. So I've gotten to the streets and some of them wanted to photos with me because I've gone to the Olympics and stuff. And
wow,
and it's quite crazy actually, to be honest, about how popular wrestling is over there, and it's in their community.
That's crazy. You must love those sort of moments, right? I mean, sort of unfortunately,
really cool.
Don't get that in Australia, no doubt, but it's sort of, very interesting. And like, do they know about you more than just recognizing you from results? Like, do they know about your sort of results and kind of like sort of who you've been up against? I mean, sort of how much of fans are they?
There's more the people who I was up against. There's mainly the stuff I was doing even last year. Oh, not last year. Yeah, last year now. With the Iranian, who I end up versing in the Olympics too. Hassan Yazdani, I versed him last time as well in World Championships as well. So sometimes it's the people who you verse, but obviously making the Olympics because they're quite wrestling nuts. So they see who's made the Olympics and what.
And I can imagine for them too, it's probably a rare opportunity to meet an Australian. Again, I can't imagine many Australians are going to that part of the world. So for them, it's it's probably a bit of exciting to hear a bit about the land down under, essentially.
Yeah, that's right. So they don't typically from Australia, they don't see too many tourists from there, I guess. At the moment, we have a few from our gym keep coming back and forth from Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. We have a good program going on. which is really good. So one of our teammates had just come back from Kazakhstan because he did the World Championships under 23s, and he did a big stint over there. I think he did about 2 months over there. So he had a big stint over there as well.
What's it like culturally? Like, I mean, what are you eating for dinner in Kyrgyzstan? Like, what does somebody in Kyrgyzstan eat for dinner every night?
Might upset to some people, but they eat a lot of horse.
Wow. Okay. So they actually eat horse. There you go. Fascinating.
So they eat a lot of horse, and they drink the horse milk.
Wow. So they're killing the horse to eat it and getting the milk out of it at the same way. That's
No.
efficient.
So that's right. They use the whole animal, and then it's like their main thing for transport going up the mountains and stuff as well. And they just love horses in all aspects. Everywhere you go, there's horses.
Wow. And then literally on your dinner plate at night. I mean, what does horse taste like? Did you eat horse?
A little bit like cow, but really fatty cow, right. I guess you could say. Yeah.
Okay. It's an interesting thing, like when you think about, animals, farm animals, we're fine eating cows, we're fine eating sheep, things like that. But horses in most of the Western world is kind of taboo. Like, don't eat a horse.
Yeah, because how much we used them for back in the day with the riding and, used to port carts. So I think it's from that generation. They're useful animal rather than an eating animal.
Fascinating. And is horse milk any different to cow milk?
No, it's terrible.
Terrible?
It is disgusting. It is disgusting. They got me to drink it a few times, and oh man, I can't stomach it. It doesn't go well down.
Wow.
When you open it, it fizzes like a soft drink.
Really? Wow. Milk that fizzes.
It is disgusting.
How is that? Like, I don't even know the science of that. I'm not smart when it comes to those sort of things. But where's it getting carbonated from? That's kind of just worrying.
It is, yeah. And then apparently you're supposed to they pour yourself a glass if it's fresh and put it in the sun for about 20 minutes or so, and it makes it better. But oh my goodness, it was. But once you open it and everything, it smells out the whole room you're in.
I never went into this interview thinking I was going to learn about fizzy horse milk. I mean, you ask a question, you go down a path, and then you get to an answer that, I mean, that's just absolutely incredible to think that. There you go, the things that you learn. Was that whole experience, though, sort of in the training camps and everything in those parts of the world? I mean, how beneficial was that for you in the lead up to Paris?
Oh, it was quite good. It got me really fit because up in the mountains, we're training up about 2,400 meters high in altitude. And then we're going up mountain climbs for different, let's say runs or whatnot, different weight sessions. And the altitude makes a huge difference to help you on the mat. So that was pretty good. Just
not the horse milk, obviously. That part's just the part that
that's the other thing that they said. Oh, this is very good for you. This is very good for you. But then you rush to the toilet, and I'm like, I don't think it's good for you. I think it's just in their head. Oh yeah, it makes you run, it clears your system. But I don't think that's still good for you.
maybe it's this case of like, oh yeah, they're fans asking for your autograph and a picture, but they're secretly going like, oh, this guy's a sucker. We're going to give him some horse milk. There you go. Oh, it's good for you. It's great. He's not beating any Iranians now. So they're kind of just secretly helping out the opponents there. I love the fact, I remember we talked about this to you beforehand, and then you and I have sort of caught up a couple of times in Sydney, and you talked to me about it, but you flew to Paris, because obviously your event's not to the back end, but you still flew to Paris and experienced the entire opening ceremony and everything along those lines. Before we get to that, like what are the logistics? Like, do you have to contact the AOC and just be like, yep, I would like to come, put my hand up. Obviously I realize probably have to put up my own accommodation and things like that. The village's not available yet, but is it sort of like a logistical thing? You still got to let them know so that they've got numbers and everything for you to be able to attend?
Oh yeah, because I had to have the numbers. It's because they have such numbers of people going to the opening ceremony. So we certainly let them know. And the Combat Oz, what we're with, helped us out with that quite a lot. He sorted it out, Andrew Prattley. He sorted out all those the AOC stuff for that, which was really good. I really wanted to go because I never know if this was going to be my last. Like, who knows if I make the next one. So I wanted to experience the whole thing, which is a big thing for me.
And such a unique one, of course, too, obviously, being on the sand and the boat and everything along those lines when it came to that. I mean, when on that Friday, like, at what point are you getting up and starting to really feel the buzz and the excitement? Because I remember that day in Paris. I remember there was a different buzz around the city on that day, on opening ceremony day. You could feel it. You could really feel it in the air that this was the day the Olympics were finally here. But from an athlete's perspective, Jayden, like, what was your mood like when you first woke up that morning and realised it's here, the opening ceremony? This is happening tonight.
Well, that's when I was like first went into the village and that too. So it was quite a surreal moment for myself as well. So the whole thing was actually one of the highlights of my life, to be honest, because first going into the village, first time ever as an Olympian, and then everyone's buzzing for the opening ceremony to start, for the Olympics to start. It was actually one of the greatest moments of my life, to be honest. Even that whole day was crazy. It was really nice.
And what's it like then meeting fellow athletes? Because, you know, obviously you've been to a Commonwealth Games, you meet athletes, it's a multi-sport event, but this is obviously the Olympics, and, you know, you're bumping shoulders with Jess Fox, Eddie Ockenden, you know, I've seen you've got a video there with Paddy Mills, like, you know, you're meeting all these people along the way, but those moments when you're realising these are my teammates, you know, these aren't just Olympians on TV, Jess Fox is my teammate, you know, it's that simple.
Yeah, so like when I got there before the opening ceremony, because I got there and I didn't have much to do, so I spent the whole day just talking to the athletes because I didn't put me up in a room just yet because I was going in and out. So I was talking to everyone that was just bumping down in the common room, and that was the best part of it. It was just meeting all the different Australian athletes, like Alex Diminor. We had a really good chat. That was one of the best things I've ever done too. That was great. He was a great guy, and as well the Mills and Jessica Fox. Yeah, so they're all amazing people and human beings.
Because
yeah,
it's also
really
that.
Good.
And I can imagine too is that case of, because while, you know, Jess Fox, Alex Diminor, you know, Paddy Mills, people know who they are, they're getting recognised, you know, probably you get more interesting conversations with people coming up to you, because unless you're in Kyrgyzstan or Kazakhstan, people probably aren't recognising you. So it's sort of a case of like, oh, what do you do? And tell me about your sport.
That's right. That's when we were talking. Because I'm a big fan of like the tennis and Alex Diminor, but he was actually more interested in what I did and how I prepared. It was actually really, really good chat we had, and with all the other athletes as well. But yeah, they were very interested because they obviously probably never heard of an athlete going to Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan to prepare for Olympic Games. But yeah, it was quite good.
What did you
have chats?
We know in the past, talking to athletes about opening ceremonies, it's obviously a very long day, and generally with the stadium, you know, multiple hours and sort of waiting in that, but a different experience getting ferried out to obviously a starting point. I don't know what the stationing situation was like for you getting on those boats and everything like that, but what was all that process like for you, sort of getting from the village to the boat, and then obviously realising that, yeah, we might be getting a bit wet tonight with the way this weather's going?
Yeah. Yes, so right at the very start, they said, make sure you bring ponchos because, grab these ponchos because it's going to be quite wet. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, it is what it is. But then the whole, like, let's say traveling to the river was very long, and everyone was getting antsy, wanting to actually happen already. Once we started getting on the boats and stuff, everyone was in a buzz. It was really good. And then it started raining. And then, but the thing is, the rain, it wasn't that bad. Like, it was like, maybe it stuffed the performances up for the thing, but the athletes everyone that I talked to had a great time with the athletes, even if it was raining. It was really good buzz.
Because you're the first we've had on the show to actually be in the opening ceremony to be able to answer that, because, you know, there was criticism about the opening ceremony, about how it was put together, and you know, maybe that the athletes were missing out on what they usually would at an opening ceremony because you're not walking into a stadium, right? It's sort of, you know, you in certain sections and you're not getting that same experience. I know you obviously don't have another Olympics to compare it to, Jayden, but as an athlete, was it, I mean, you sort of touched on it, an enjoyable experience that you're still able to soak up the crowd, the atmosphere, that this was an opening ceremony still? Oh,
yeah. So, like, once we went off the boats, we went to the underneath the Eiffel Tower, and they did that performance, like with the flag transferring and all that. and we got to see the Olympic torch get carried by Dell, and like we were so close to like that section there. Well, I could almost touch Nadal. It was like crazy. It was one of the best experiences ever.
You could see Celine Dion up close and personal in the Eiffel Tower singing, right?
Eiffel Tower. So we were just underneath the tower and having a good old time. It was good.
It's so good to hear that, because I mean I personally absolutely love the opening ceremony, Jayden, and I mean, you know, I watched it from a hotel room in Paris. You know, we sort of weren't really in a position to kind of brave it out there too much. We could see some of the flyovers from our hotel, but it was sort of, you know, just an experience to kind of watch it in there. But yeah, for all the criticism that it got, I think that it was just so unique and fascinating, and it's good to hear that sort of athlete's perspective, that you're also able to kind of soak that in and enjoy it, and kind of, you know, get that real vibe that obviously Paris tried to do with this very unique opening ceremony.
Yeah, the athletes, everyone I talked to was had a really good time. And so
I know you had a bit of a chat with me in Sydney about it, but how long did it take to dry the old jacket out afterwards? And have you got the old the wet smell out of it, or is it still a bit stinky from all the rain?
Actually, we had to take it to the dry cleaners to get it properly fixed up, because as soon as we got back, we went to the one of those Olympic dinners, and it still wasn't right then. So now we've taken it to the dry cleaners, and then we went to meet the king after that too. So I had to get it. I didn't want to make it stinky in front of the king. I don't think he would have talked to me.
bit of a reason there to get it done, right? Like, hi, can I get this dry clean? I'm just meeting the king. Okay, yep, we can fix that up for you. Is it a bit of a, I don't want to say a downer, but like obviously from there you've then got to get back into training, because you're still then, you know, a week and a half, 2 weeks away from competing. I mean, is it kind of a bit disappointing that you got to wait that long to get back into the vibe and get back into Paris, or does it kind of help you that maybe you can kind of have this massive high and then you can just get back to the job at hand and focus on what you're actually at the Olympics for?
That's what it was. So it was that you know, get that atmosphere out of the way. Now when you come back, you can just sit there and focus and get ready for your event. And that's what we kind of were planning to do, which is what happened.
And do you completely switch off from the Olympics? So like you're just, again, focused on training, or are you able to kind of maybe flick on the TV and see some of the results that are happening out there, just to kind of at least maybe realise, well, there's an Olympics happening still? Oh,
yeah. So we'll still watch the events, like as in downstairs in the common rooms when we weren't training or getting prepared or doing video analysis. I was obviously still mingling, because it helps the head clear as well, you know, talking to people, and because I just stick into my room and I got just overthink things, and so it's good to go downstairs and still talk to the athletes.
And when do you then actually get to Paris? How far ahead of your event did you arrive in the village where you actually got a bed and this is your room?
Yeah, so I competed on the 8th and we arrived on the 3rd. So right. We arrived on the 3rd of August.
And who are your roommate? Do you automatically get Georgie as a roommate because you're the only two wrestlers?
Georgie, me and Georgie, okay.
Yeah. Because I was like, I don't know, like, it's a question I don't often ask on this show, like, who's your roommate? Sometimes it's obviously obvious if, you know, you've got somebody else in your sport or something like that. But I know when we had Josh Katz on recently, he was sort of saying about how he kind of almost had a room to himself and had to share like a common area with other people. Like it was sort of it was interesting on that level to kind of see that. So I'm sure you've traveled around a bit with Georgie in that before. So, I mean, is he a good roommate? Like, you know, easy to live with?
Oh, he's very quiet. Hard to speak to him too well because he speaks Russian and not too much English. So it's a bit quiet. We get along though, which is good. He's one of those ones where he wants to stay in his room until his event's on, and that's it. So kind of like he goes and watches his videos, like in his shows, his Russian shows, and just sticks to himself because he wants to get in the zone, and that's just how he likes to prepare. So that's what he did.
How far away, because I know it's sort of generally different when I ask this question for a lot of the combat sports where obviously you're being drawn against an opponent, but are you, like, how far away are you aware that you're up against the sun? Like, was that the day before your match?
It's the day before.
Wow.
It's less than 24 hours.
Jeez, that's crazy. And like, how does that help you with the psyche of it all? Like, are you able to sort of get into a zone, or is it kind of until you've got that draw, then you can really focus on what you're about to achieve and about to do?
Well, that's the other thing. So the draw's a big thing depending on who you've got. who you got in your on your side or whatnot, and how you prepare mentally, and then just how you're going to go around your match. So it's actually a pretty big deal, to be honest, depending on the draw.
Were
So
you
when the draw comes out, it's like, okay, well, I've got this person first, and then this is what I've got to do to this person, and yada yada yada. But you do the all video analysis with all the athletes beforehand.
right?
So it's just sometimes you do. Like, let's say you got and do this analysis on person on that's not even the side of your draw, but you've already done it because he might have been on your side. So
Is it like, are you hoping to get someone? I mean, it's probably a stupid question, but bear with me. Are you hoping to get someone easier that you think or know you can beat so you can go forward? Or are you hoping to get someone like really hard? Because at the end of the day, if you want to go on to win a medal, you've got to beat the best in the world. So ultimately, you've got to face these people. So do you kind of almost want to start with like the best and then kind of work your way? I mean, how do you kind of approach that, who you're hoping to get?
well, this Olympics, I wanted to either get two people, which I could have gotten, which I ended up getting one of them. So Hassan Yazdan, because I wanted it, because when someone beats me, I feel like I want to do one better, you know. So there's the Mongolian there that I almost beat in World Championships last year, which I wanted to get one over again. So I either wanted to verse the Mongolian or the Hassan Yazdani, which I ended up getting. So kind of got what I wanted, which is good. But I didn't win it all at this time. But it was good to verse him again.
To put this into context for people who aren't familiar with Hassan, so Rio gold medalist, silver medalist in Tokyo, went on to win the silver in Paris, multiple world champion. I mean, this guy is, let's say, okay at wrestling. He does a fair bit along the way there. But I mean, you said you had come up against him previously as well. So do you, when you've looked at the tapes and you fought him before, I mean, what's the coach saying to you that night, sort of the night before you're going up against him this time around? I mean, it's kind of his domain. It's, two-time Olympic medalist that you're facing him in almost like his, domain that he's kind of quite used to at this point.
But that was the other thing. Like, it was made me more nervous when I was coming up against him as well. Like, he was shaking and really nervous for the match, which I was quite shocked for because he's previously beat me. But then again, last time I versed him, I scored on him and it ended up being 6-2. So maybe he was a bit nervous, like, oh, okay, this guy's gotten better, yada, yada. But to see him, like, let's say, shook and nervous, maybe like, oh, God, this is the real deal kind of thing. This legend is absolutely shaking and nervous and more than I am. I said, okay,
fascinating.
This is straight. Yeah, I thought it was quite, yeah.
Is
Strange.
he someone that you could ask why? Like, or do you think that's just kind of, it doesn't matter how many times you've been in the Olympics, you're still going to face those nerves?
I think so. I think that's what it is with the Olympics, man. It's just, that's what it is. It's like, it's every 4 years and it's the top of pinnacle, right? So no matter how good you are or whatnot, you're nervous as hell. I think that's the whole thing about the Olympics.
Yeah. Crazy that even the greats still kind of, are shaking on that day. That's insane. How were your nerves that morning? I mean, actually, I'll back up. What were you like that night going to sleep, knowing that the next morning you were about to achieve this goal that you would, so narrowly missed out on 3 times prior?
Yeah. So I slept really well because once I knew it was Tony and Danny, it was who I wanted. So it's like, okay, the scripts start to play itself kind of thing, which I wanted it to do. So I slept really well. So because I knew what I was coming against. If I got the person that I didn't know, maybe I was a bit more restless. But because I already know who I'm versing and then how he wrestles, I was all sweet and I slept quite well that night.
And then do you have sort of a level then in the morning of, is there a specific routine that you will have on match day that you kind of just continue? Was there something different?
So we weigh in the morning and then we have to, like, let's say, monetary quick to make to go to the event and then warm up and then the game's on, So you haven't got much time from the weigh-in to the actual event. So it's quite a quick process from weigh-in, have breakfast, travel to the event, warm up, and your match will be on. So you haven't got much time to drill on yourself, really.
So there's nothing that, say, maybe you would do like silly as it sounds, of like you put on a sock on a certain, like, do you have superstitions or things like that you kind of got to follow on a match day?
I certainly have a superstition. Like I wear my socks inside out every tournament. It's just
Right.
a thing I do. I used
How
to
did that
have
come
because
about?
back
Was that just a thing that happened,
well,
or?
when I was young. Yeah, when I was young, I don't know what it is, but yes, when I was young, I do it. So
Wow.
yeah,
I love hearing those things. Like, it's sort of just, it's the quirky little ones. Like, I remember when I played field hockey, I used to, I'd always, because I was a goalie, I'd always have to like walk up to the goals and tap them in a certain order as kind of like, okay, I'm
yeah,
about to play. And I just had to do this thing like with the goals. It was just what I did.
yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
why. I just started doing it, and every game I did it. So,
yeah.
you kind of have those little routines. Do you get a chance sort of the night before to speak to your wife, to your family? Like, obviously they're not there with you in the village, but is that something you do, or is it just you're blocking that out and you'll focus on that sort of, because they're going to be there obviously supporting you the next day?
Yeah. So I did talk to them, and they wish me good luck and everything, which is really good. That was one of the best things at the Olympics, was having my family there. That was surreal. That was the best thing. It was walking out to see and then seeing my family just there supporting me just in front of the mat that we were at. Yeah, it was one of the best experiences ever, because you could hear them even when I was on the mat. It was crazy, cheering me on. Even though the whole place was buzzing because it was Hassan Yazdani that was wrestling there. I could still hear my son and my daughter. My dad was, and my partner was really good.
I think I saw an interview or something that you had mentioned about how it was almost extra special for you because obviously they were at an age where they can kind of appreciate the fact that you're there, rather than like, it wouldn't have taken away from any other previous Olympics you would have qualified for, but they're obviously now a little bit more aware of what you're doing. So this is probably a memory, no doubt, that they can look back on and go, hey, I remember seeing my dad at the Olympics.
Well, that's right. As soon as we got back, Evie goes, my daughter goes, I want to be an Olympian now. So it's like she wants, and then she keeps asking, oh, when you going to try for the next Olympics day? You want to try for the next Olympics day? Because I want to go again.
Just
So it
keep
was,
going.
yeah. So it was. They absolutely had one of the best times of their lives. It was really good. That was the best part.
In terms of the match itself, ultimately you fall in that round to Hassan, 10-0. Now that might be something you might need to explain a little bit how that works in terms of the scoring. But I mean, how did you feel sort of throughout, sort of going up against him? Kind of what went down in the match that ultimately you ended up falling to him? I mean, take us through kind of what happened in it.
It was quite strange because the stuff that was kind of working for me last time I versed him certainly did not work for me this time. It's like he smartened up, and what I did last time to him, which worked, he would, let's say, counteracted it this time, and it kind of like put a spanner in the works for me, because it was like, okay, that was what I was working for specifically for him, and it's not working. So I kind of had to adapt, and by the time I adapt, it was a bit too late then to for the scoring side of things. So it was, but he's an amazing wrestler, which is hard to score on at the best of times, to be honest. So his tactics in the wrestling, it's probably the best in the world, certainly for tactics.
So when the match is over, I mean, obviously there's disappointment there, but ultimately you've got that silver lining in your sport where you can keep cheering on for him and hope that he keeps winning, because then, as we're going to get to, you then get into the repechage. So what are the emotions like once it's over? Is it just straight away disappointment, or is it kind of almost like I've still got to be mentally ready because there's every chance I could still be fighting tomorrow?
Well, that's right. So as soon as you lose, well, certainly with someone that's like Hassan Yazdani, you're pretty sure he's going to go through. But if it wasn't, let's say a person that's high caliber as him, you'd be kind of a bit nervous. It's like, oh, he might not go through or whatever to continue on. There's a bit of a mixed emotions of disappointment on that you didn't go through or didn't perform well. And then there's still things like, okay, I got to focus. Might still need to be going on, so you can't get too disheartened. Otherwise, you're not going to do too well the next day. So it's like a juggling act with emotions a little bit.
Can't go and hit the muffins and kind of get in the booze basically that night because you've got to obviously wait and see how the results.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
what does your coach say to you? What does your wife say to you? Like, kind of what has been said to you even before you know that you get another chance the next day? Kind of like, what are the things that have been said to you after the loss?
Oh, just like, you did your try best and all that type of jazz, like what which family would normally say. But it would be like, you in, so it's video analysis on the person that you might likely be coming against, and let's work on a game plan for the next person. Even if he didn't go through, you'd be still doing that process.
Because
Why you were ready.
Your match is in the next day. But so like, and it's pretty quick, right? So like, are you sort of hanging around much all day, or is it sort of something that you are aware of pretty quickly that, okay, well, I'm going in tomorrow and I now know who I'm up against tomorrow in the rapid charge?
Yeah, so when I lost to Hassan Yazdani, went back, rested up for basically home person's, yes, Hassan Yazdani was going to go through. But not everyone doesn't know for sure, but anyway, we had a good feeling. Feed, even though we got to weigh in the next day if I still go through overcharge. But I was pretty good with my weight anyway. So we were preparing for the person that I might be, which ended up being the crease guy. But we're just getting mentally prepared.
Had you
physically prepared?
Had you fought Doran before? Like, were you familiar with him at all? And sort of when you got drawn up against him, knew him?
No, so I haven't versed him before. The Russian Greek guy. He in the video analysis, out of all the people that were watching, I'll be like, his style really doesn't suit my style, if that makes sense. So it's like, I'll leave it to my coach. I shouldn't be saying this, but so anyway, I said, man, out of all in the draw, I said, I think I would struggle with him the most because of his structure. He's very strong and very long. And his styles, let's say, or like he's in, his style is very unique. And I struggle with those type of person where you can't predict out of the ordinary, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So how he defends. So coming in there, we had a game plan, but the game plan went out the window when as soon as he took us down. But that's history, I guess.
Which, in one way, with it, like going back to what you're saying before about your first match of the day, I mean, this is now your second match at the Olympics. It's obviously quite soon afterwards. I mean, everything they said just aside, is there part of you, though, that goes into that with a different level of confidence now that you've sort of maybe got that initial hump of, I'm at the Olympics over with, and now this is kind of like, okay, well, I've got another shot at this, and now I win this match, I'm one win away from an Olympic medal. Like, I mean, I'm sure it's a different mindset, despite obviously the uncertainty of your opponent, that you go into that next match the next day with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So the first, with the Hassan Yazdani's match, the first one, I had the worst nerves I've ever had. But the second day, it wasn't so much nerves. It was more like, okay, I know what it's like now, and let's go in it. But sort of caught in a technique with the second match. But it certainly, that first match, the first match was unbelievably the craziest nerves I've ever had. But the second day, there was almost like there was a little bit of nerves, but it was like more determination, if that makes sense. Mentality, saying, okay, well, we stuffed up the first day. Let's try and pick up the mistakes this time and go hard at it.
Because it's so unique, that rapid charge format, isn't it? Particularly in wrestling, how the fact that you win that match, you literally then go through to a bronze medal game. So it's kind of like you lose, but then you win, and then you just need to win one more to win a medal. I mean, I'm not good at math, Jayden, but it's almost sometimes might seem like, obviously you want the gold. I'm not saying you go in there to win a bronze, but if you got a mindset of winning the bronze, just lose the first match, hope your competitor wins. You only win 2 matches and you get a bronze. So I don't know if that's kind of any mentality there, but it's so unique that you can kind of be in that position where you're that close to an Olympic medal.
Yeah, that's right. So, well, it makes a bit of sense because, like, if the 2 best people are on one side, right, and then the other side would have, like, not so good people, it's like kind of not the true medalists, if that makes sense. If it just tears down like that, so that's why they put the to the person who wins end up being finalist ended up going for finals. I agree with it, but what I don't agree with though is that having two bronzes. I don't like 2 bronzes. It's just one more match.
I see. It's
only one more match. That's all it is.
I don't get it when it comes to, say, like, I get it in boxing where if you lose a semi-final, the 2 losing semi-finals get a bronze. I get that, but I'm with you. I don't understand why you have in a sport 2 bronze medal matches. It should just be 1 bronze. Yeah, I'm completely on board with that. So it's unique because does this happen in world championships or is this just very unique to the Olympics?
Is that the Com Games, is that the World Championship, is that any event that has that structure, the repertoire structure, has 2 bronzes, which I don't agree with.
Yeah, it's really, really fascinating how it works that way because, again, like I still don't necessarily agree that you have 2 bronzes in boxing. I still think the 2 losing semi-finals just box for bronze. That's just how it should be. But at the same time, I understand how you just give it to the bronze, like to the losing semi-finals.
Because there's a knockout.
Yeah. So stage, it's sort of it's that way. But I mean, ultimately, you get that other shot. Ultimately, it doesn't play out. I mean, can you reflect on both your matches and obviously with 2 losses, does that add fuel to the fire of now, okay, you've achieved this goal, you've gotten the Olympics, but you haven't really achieved maybe what you wanted to at an Olympics, so that just fuels it for moving forward towards LA?
Yeah, well, the last one, the second match was quite disappointing because I got caught in a bad leg lace, and to be honest, never even finished like that, so it's kind of dented the feelings a little bit. But it was tough to take that last loss, like how that happened. But it is what it is. You get caught. But by moving forward, it certainly makes you hungrier to do one better. So I'd love to go for the next one and try and do one better than I have this time. So that's what we're going to be, let's say, training for in the near future. Try and do better than I did last.
It's also a case of, do you look at it at the 2 people that beat you went on to win medals? So, I mean, you did get beaten by 2 of the best wrestlers in the world.
Arguably, in my opinion, because Hassan Yazdani should have won, well, not should have won gold because the Bulgarian Russian heel is very good. But Hassan Yazdani popped his shoulder out 5 times in that match. So I think he would have won gold if he was all physically fit, Hassan Yazdani. But in my opinion, I think the Greek guy was the second best one in that division too.
Wow.
So
okay.
I think if the Greek guy was on the other side, I think he would have made it to the finals.
Wow, there you go. See, that's I think just adds weight more to your loss there, Jayden. You get beaten by these people that go that way.
But I even saying that, like with Hassan Yazdani, I tried to do what we were trying to do, which didn't work because he had. Like, he versed me and he saw how I react and how I do things and how I scored on him last. And he just corrected those mistakes he did last time, which kind of just put a stunner in the works. But I was kind of disappointed in the performance I did with the Greek guy because I think could have done a little bit better than I did, even though I was kind of sticking to the game in what we had it in place. So, yeah. So I don't make that excuse of they're really good, that's why it happened kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are the emotions like on the second day after that loss? Because ultimately, this time around, there's not the chance that you can get back in it again. Like that's it. It is finally over with at that point. I mean, kind of how were you feeling on that day?
I was really helped having the family there. As soon as I lost, I went up to see the family, and they see my son there and their daughter. That was really good. It made me feel way better, to be honest. Just to see how happy they were to see me on the stage and stuff. And then we watched the rest of the matches that whole day together, and watching the people that I previously just lost to win medals, which was good to see. But it was really good to do that with your family, just sitting there and chatting, because we didn't have much time to chat because I was preparing myself. So it was good to finally, because I didn't see them for about 3.5 months, so properly. So it was good to just sit down and spend the whole day with them and chat about the whole trip that we just previously did.
Given that you're obviously so focused on maintaining weight and weigh-ins and everything when you sort of get eliminated from a competition like that, is dinner just like a massive fucking feast for you that night, that you just eat whatever the hell you want because, right, you don't have to worry about weighing in the next morning?
Well, myself, that was the biggest problem with myself. If you look at the two, like all of the wrestlers compared to me, I'm probably one of the smallest guys there. I'm kind of stuck in between the two weights, so I don't really lose too much weight for that category. So I sit around 87 kilos even now. So I'm 87 kilos right now, and I'm 86 kilos. All these guys are coming down from 92 kilos.
Okay.
All right, so
they're the ones eating that night. They're the ones scoffing.
They're the ones
food
eating
down.
that. Well, even though I know how to eat and eat good, but we did eat good that night, by the way. But it's like I was more wanting to see the family and everything, and spend time with them.
Did you go? I saw
on that weight thing. If I was a little bit, well, if I was bigger or taller and structure and everything, it would be perfect for 86. But really, I'm a perfect 79 kilo wrestler,
right,
which is not an Olympic division. It's a World Championship division, but it's not Olympic or Commonwealth Games in the divisions. So the next one down is 74 kilos. So 74 kilos is a huge jump. It's a massive gap. So I'm kind of stuck in the middle, which it should be at 79 kilo, which is not a division for the Olympics or the Commonwealth.
So do you compete in 79 at World Championships though, or do you just stick to your...
Well, that's the other thing. That's my next goal now. So my next goal is to go to the World Championships next year at 79 kilos.
Right.
But it's not an Olympic weight, but there's no Com Games next year for us.
That's right. Wrestling is not first time since 2006 that no wrestling, right? So
that's quite. I kind of understand, because the lad goes, I can picking up last minute because of the debacle Dan Andrew had and everything. But they could only pick 10 sports, and wrestling wasn't one of those. It was good to see judo. It was good to see judo.
Well, that was a shock, because I know when we talked to Josh recently about it, he was sort of obviously not on the agenda for Victoria when they initially had it. So the fact that they've kind of brought it back there, it's good for judo. But yeah, it's sort of I thought wrestling, there's reasons why they've only got the 10 sports, but I thought wrestling was pretty safe, just because generally the host nations will often pick the sports that they're going to win medals at, and generally Scotland, England, they sort of do all right in wrestling, don't they, at a common game? So I thought they would have kept it.
I thought they would have put the judo and wrestling together, like where they put athletics all together. I don't know why they wouldn't, because it's the same venue. Yeah, put them on the same time.
How's your judo?
Have two mats.
Can you qualify for judo for Glasgow at all? Or
I think there's a big process for that. I'm pretty sure, with the black belts and all that type of jazz. But
you know some people in the combat world that might be able to sort of help you out with that. I love sort of just watching though your social media posts of your time there in Paris. I mean, I saw you got to see some other events. You obviously did the closing ceremony. You got a photo there with Ray Gunn. You really soaked all that atmosphere. I mean, how can you compare the closing ceremony to the opening ceremony at all in that experience?
All right, so opening ceremony was like a surreal, like, oh my God, I'm here type of stuff. Closing ceremony was just a party for the Australians. It was hilarious. We had such a good time, the Australians. It was great. Every other team which we saw were all like, it was like, we're going to call them boring because they were just standing in line. No one was like having fun, but then you come to our line and everyone's playing music and dancing, having a
You
good
had
old
Anna
time.
Mears on up on your shoulders there. It seems like
mate,
even Anna was getting into it.
It was it was a party. It was really good. That was that was amazing. That was that whole closing ceremony day was really good.
Did you storm the stage? Were you up there with Phoenix having a dance before you got kicked off?
We were one of the first ones up there. I thought that's what we were supposed to do. I thought that's what
I think everyone did. It looked like you were meant to.
We stormed it up because I thought that's what we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then we're like, "Oh, athletes get off the stage." Like, what? This is not what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, because it looked so empty when you all went off the stage. Like, because it was such a big stage, it was almost like it just they made a mistake in not having you up there. So it was kind of.
I think they should have had it like up there. To be honest, I think that would have worked out better.
I agree. I've said the story a few times to some of the people who have talked about this too, but one of my favourite things watching from the stands was I remember there was like one volunteer who she started, like I could see her like telling you like piss off, and then it just looked like she was just like, fuck it, just stay up here, because then like she just looked like she just gave up, but ultimately you all sort of went off. How close were you to Tom when he came down and jumped into the stadium and went on the motorbike?
He was on the other side, so he was on the other side. But we saw him way before he was jumping because we had time to look around and everything. And then we were like, there's someone up there. And we're like, I reckon it's Tom Cruise. We called him.
There he was. Jumped straight in. Did you, like, again, another one I've talked about is sort of that disappointment that kind of filled the stadium when people realised that, like, Snoop Dogg and all that was in LA and it wasn't happening. So did you stick around or did you like, fuck this, I'm leaving, it's over with?
As soon as just before the fireworks went off, we went out, we jumped out. But we're saying the same thing. I was like, wait a minute. Snoop Dogg was there the whole time.
Yeah.
Why couldn't he stay for the closing ceremony? That just make no sense to me.
Because it was
I thought that was quite strange.
You could feel it. You could feel it in the stadium when they started doing the American national anthem. And then, like, it's almost like everybody kind of like, they shuffled in their seats. They're like, oh, here we go. This is what we're waiting for. When Tom jumps in, you got Simone Biles, the mayor of LA. Like, you're really amping for it. And I think it was even when they cut and you saw Red Hot Chili Peppers and Billie Eilish, you were still going like, but Snoop's about to appear in the middle of the stadium, right? Like, it was, I don't think it was to that moment when Snoop was on the screen that everybody was just like, because I just watched all the athletes. Many athletes just left.
As soon as Snoop Dogg appeared up on the screen, everyone left, basically.
Yeah.
From the athletes. Yeah.
Which is a shame because the fireworks at the end were incredible. It's sort of it's kind of that level of it. But look, we've touched on a bit of obviously things that you've been up to since. So you also had a great little getaway with your family sort of afterwards, and then coming back to Australia. You did the welcome home parade in Sydney, some dinners. But I've got to ask you, you met the king. Now, through all of these events, you met off the podium host Ben Waterworth, which is a pretty big deal, let's be honest. But can't top meeting the king of the Commonwealth, King of Australia, King of England, Prince Charles, King Charles. Tell us about this meeting. How did it come about? And what do you say to the King of England?
Well, I wasn't expecting to talk to him that long, to be honest, but because we had some pretty big names next to us. But he was just going through us all, shaking his hand, and then he stopped at me. He was, you went to the Olympics, and we just started talking from there, and just asking about the wrestling and who I versed at the Olympics, and we talked about just wrestling in Australia in general. So it was quite amazing to speak to him for that long compared to some other people that were there.
Wow. Really which because there's always a protocol, isn't there? I can imagine that there's somebody like telling you like, and if he comes to you, this is like, how much are you told beforehand?
The funny thing is they didn't tell us that because we previously met William and Kate when they came last to Sydney in the Opera House. So they kind of gave us the protocols then, right? But this time they didn't give us any protocols, which I thought was really strange.
Wow. I thought there'd be even more.
That's what I thought, the king this time, not just the prince. So I kind of knew what to say anyway. And maybe that's why he talked to me, because I greeted him the right way. But they didn't give any of the other people any type of information.
Fascinating.
I thought it was quite strange.
Yeah, that's incredible to think that. Were you there when Queen Mary came into the village, or sort of before the Olympics, or were you not there?
So just there, but I didn't end up meeting her. meeting her.
Right.
But
Okay.
yeah, so I just missed her out of her.
You
Yeah.
got to meet the king, so that kind of balances it out a little bit. I know, obviously, since you've come back, you've actually had another injury, which obviously
Yeah.
kind of seems to just follow you around a bit, Jayden. But tell us a little bit about that, and sort of you've touched on it a little bit, sort of what you're looking towards the future. But I'm assuming now that all roads leading to LA to hopefully get to see Snoop Dogg in person. I mean, that's the only reason why, right? You just want to see Snoop Dogg in person.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, so I got back in one of the first weeks of training. I hurt my knee, the LCL again. Similar injury I did at the Commonwealth Games back in Birmingham. So I've been kind of, let's say, sitting on that one a little bit, but I've still been training a little bit, just trying to keep the boys up active. So it's helped Rob Whittaker's camp that he just had, unfortunately lost. But yeah, I hurt myself helping him, and but I had to keep training to help him out. So I haven't fixed it properly yet. But now, yeah, the rehab kind of starts now. So
and then
yeah.
the journey moving forward. Is it also a case now too that you obviously do a bit of coaching, you sort of the platform of the sport already, but now that you do have OLY sort of after your name, that you're hoping that this can help grow the sport more towards, and particularly towards Brisbane, because obviously LA is happening in 4 years, but we do have a home Olympics in 8 years' time where we want to see all the Olympic sports and all of our athletes, doing their best. But I'm sure using now this Olympic platform that you have, Jayden, to kind of really grow the sport in this country.
Well, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get more athletes into the sport for getting ready for the Brisbane Olympics in 2032. So we've got a whole program just dedicated to that Olympics for the wrestling. We're trying to grow the younger kids to eventually, hopefully, to qualify for those Olympics. So there's a big program already in place for that, which is already started. That's why some of them are already traveling overseas. And we just had Southeast Asian Games for some young kids and young juniors and seniors. So we're already starting the ball rolling now.
Great.
For those Olympics. And as well as LA as well too. So we've got a whole bunch of things in place.
Are we placed well? Do you think we've got some good kids coming up, boys and girls, that are sort of rising through the ranks in the sport?
We do. What I find the problem is keeping them into the sport once they start, getting the car or getting their jobs or girlfriends or yada yada. That's the biggest test, is that transition from being a junior, like let's say your parents taking you to training sessions, rather than when you get your car license or you get a job, when you take yourself to training and the dedication. Yep. So that's what I find is that test. If you keep going,
push them to say that you get to meet the king and drink horse milk. I mean, that's right. That's the life you want to lead.
Should really get him going.
There's a TikTok video or something there, isn't there, to try and really promote that. I'm not sure how kind of that works. After all the journey that took you, Jayden, to get there, now that you are an Olympian, I mean, did it live up to those expectations? Did it kind of live up to everything that you ever imagined it would be going to an Olympics?
Yeah, it was everything I was thinking of, but more, to be honest. Going back to what we were talking about, talking to all the athletes and seeing their journey and all that, that was one of the greatest parts, is listening to all their stories and talking to them, and as well as the other countries as well. That the whole hype about the Olympics and what it means to everybody, it was it was certainly what I was expecting, but more.
That's what I like to hear. That's what we like to hear on this show, Jayden. I mean, it's the beauty about having you as being our first 3-time guest is it's kind of, I feel like we've really gone on that journey with you. When we first had you back on the show, we were sort of really talking about, what's happening in wrestling. Why haven't we got any athletes in Tokyo? Tell us a little bit more about the sport, to obviously, you having qualified and now kind of having this journey. So it's really been such a pleasure to kind of follow this journey with you and see it all. And it's not over yet. We've still got more, right? We've still got more to come.
That's right.
It's not like this is the Jayden Lawrence retirement episode or anything like that. I think it's it's only getting started. It's always a pleasure to get you on the show, mate, and really to sort of learn everything. And we appreciate your time. And I have to say that the horse stories, the horse milk, and everything might be the pick of the bunch. I'm not to take away from your fantastic Olympic experiences, but now I'm just every time I open up a can of Coke and it fizzes, I'm just all of a sudden going to be like, oh, is this horse milk? What's going on?
Yeah, you wouldn't want to smell it. Let me just tell you that.